I am garbage. I am trash. Just leave me here with all this other trash.
Skulk brayed his laments as loud as he could. The ogre had dramatically laid himself down on a heap of plastics and metals several hours prior, after contemplating and then somewhat finding truth in the idea that life has no meaning. Being the size he was, however, and having plopped down a bit too aggressively, some of the sharper metals in the pile punctured his skin. Unfazed by his wounds, the beast continued this slightly theatrical self-expression.
How can anyone not know they are trash? How do we ever go on?
He aggressively pondered towards anyone he hoped was out there. There was, however, no one around him. No one even noticed that Skulk had gone. Camelman blissfully toyed with the emotions and private bits of a group of bored city dwellers. Hammerhands ran through the falling apart city, delivering justice to the undeserving. Even Lady Baghead sat quietly atop her mountain of trash, also contemplating how much her existence didn't matter, but at a much more profound level than our dear friend Skulk. And as for the people, well, they kind of avoided Skulk to begin with. You see, it's not a ton of fun hanging around with a clumsy dolt 3 times the size of you, who could crush you at any moment, whether on purpose or not. Also, his always trying to do what's right attitude never really resonated with the masses. But out here, far past the city walls, there was no one. There was a moment he thought he heard someone passing by, which prompted the ogre to elevate his voice and dig himself deeper into the trash pile in hopes of getting the possible person's attention. But alas, as the sharper objects dug deeper into his meats, he realized it was just a heavy gust of wind, causing the surrounding metal and plastic to rustle in a very footsteps kind of way. Skulk finally expelled his last moans and decided to give up on anyone ever coming to console him. After all, he just figured out how meaningless life was, so why not embrace it? The ogre felt more tired than he expected after his catharsis, so he rolled over to catch his breath and look at the smog-filled sky. The sharp metals stung as they vacated his surprisingly deep wounds. An unexpected thought passed through the ogre's relatively empty skull, one that lifted his mood almost instantaneously. You see, this thought posed the idea that even if life was meaningless, it didn't mean he still couldn't choose to give it meaning. It didn't mean he couldn't be useful or have purpose. It just meant he had to find one, or even create one. This made the ogre smile. He even felt a bit at ease knowing he had the rest of his life to figure out what meaning he'd choose for it to have. In fact, he could have started figuring out that meaning right then and there. But in that moment, the winds blew the terrible smells of the oil seas away from Skulk's snout, and the smog above was catching the constantly dying light of the sun in a way that was almost beautiful. It wasn't, but almost. The beast felt light, even a bit giddy. He laughed a little, but only a little. He was surprisingly exhausted, even though it didn't bother him that he was. He barely even noticed how cold he felt, or how sticky and damp and red the pile underneath him had gotten. He just enjoyed this rush of hope for the first time in a while. And as the blood quickly poured out of his now needing immediate medical attention wounds, the beast closed his eyes and thought about how much meaning he'd give himself tomorrow.